Have you ever felt like you had to be the grown-up in your family, even when you were just a kid? Like you were the one responsible for keeping everyone happy, managing your parents' emotions, or even mediating their arguments? If this sounds familiar, you might have experienced something called parentification. It's a term that might sound a bit academic, but the feeling is very real for many people. Parentification is when the roles get flipped. Instead of the parent taking care of the child ends up taking on adult responsibilities, especially emotional ones. This isn't about simple chores like washing the dishes or looking after a younger sibling for a little while. This is a consistent pattern where a child becomes the emotional caretaker for their parents. They might feel like they have to be their parents' confidant, their therapist, or their cheerleader, always putting the parents' emotional needs before their own. So, what does this look like in real life? It could be a child who constantly tries to cheer up the depressed parent, or a kid who feels like they have to be the perfect student and never cause any trouble because they worry it would add more stress to their parents' lives. They learn to suppress their own feelings, their sadness, their anger, their needs, because there's simply no space for them. The focus is always on the parent. They become hyper-aware of their parents' moods, always scanning the room and trying to figure out how to keep the peace. This can have long-lasting effects. As adults, people who were parentified might struggle with setting boundaries. They might find themselves in relationships where they are always the giver, always taking care of others, because that's the role they learned to play. They might feel a constant sense of anxiety or an overwhelming weight of responsibility for other people's happiness. It can be hard for them to even identify their own needs, let alone ask for them to be met. The good news is, recognizing this pattern is the first powerful step toward healing. It is about understanding that it wasn't your job to be your parents' emotional support system. You were a child, and you deserve to be cared for. Healing involves learning to reparent yourself. This means giving yourself the compassion, attention, and permission to feel that you may not have received. It is about learning to set healthy boundaries and understanding that you are not responsible for managing anyone else's emotions. If this topic resonates deeply with you, know that you're not alone and help is available. Talking to a therapist or a mental health professional can provide you with the tools and support to navigate these feelings and build healthier relationship patterns for yourself. It's a journey of reclaiming your own life and learning to put your own well-being first. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and subscribe for more content on mental health and personal growth. See you in the next one. And the child inside you learns a devastating lesson. Being needed is safer than being cared for. As you grow older, this wiring doesn't disappear. It evolves. The child who learned to self-regulate too early becomes the adult who struggles to let go of control. You might become hyper-independent, uncomfortable asking for help, even when you're exhausted. You might feel uneasy when someone tries to care for you, as if receiving is something you haven't earned. Rest can feel undeserved. Joy can feel fragile, even suspicious. You may be productive but numb, accomplished but disconnected. And because this has been your normal for so long, you may not realize you're still living in survival mode. When chaos is familiar, peace can feel unfamiliar. When emotional labor is your default, stillness feels empty instead of safe. Underneath all of this, there is often a quiet grief. Not always dramatic, not always conscious. Just a dull ache that surfaces in silence. A sense that something was missed. That you've been holding your breath for years, waiting for permission to finally let go. Many adults who grew up too fast carry an unspoken question. When is it my turn to be taken care of? That question doesn't come from weakness. It comes from a need that was postponed, not erased, because the child you adapted away never disappeared. They're still there, waiting to be acknowledged, waiting for someone to say what no one said back then. You didn't deserve that responsibility. you are just a child. This is why these patterns show up in relationships. You may overfunction fixing, managing, anticipating, while resentment quietly builds. You may feel drawn to people who need help, because being needed feels familiar, even when it drains you. Boundaries can feel terrifying, because saying no once meant risking connection. You might apologize for having emotions, minimize your pain, feel guilty for needing reassurance. On the surface, you look like you have it together. Inside, there's exhaustion, the kind that doesn't go away with sleep, a sense that you're always on, always responsible, always holding something invisible. Here's the hardest part to accept. None of this was a conscious choice. Children don't sacrifice themselves on purpose. They adapt for attachment. The brain prioritizes belonging over authenticity when safety is uncertain. That isn't dysfunction. That's intelligence. That's survival. But what saves you early in life can imprison you later if it goes unexamined. The traits you were praised for, maturity, independence, emotional control, can quietly block you from softness, vulnerability, and rest. Healing doesn't start by getting rid of these traits. It starts by understanding why they formed. The first real step isn't fixing yourself. It's witnessing what happened without minimizing it. Letting go of, "It wasn't that bad," or "Others had it worse." Pain isn't a competition. And turning out fine doesn't mean you weren't impacted. Fine is often just another mask. When you allow yourself to name the loss, the childhood you didn't get to fully inhabit, those old patterns begin to loosen. You start noticing when you're overgiving, overfunctioning, overexplaining, and you ask a new question. What do I need right now? Not what will keep everyone else comfortable. This process can feel unsettling, even painful, because it asks you to feel emotions you didn't have space for back then. Grief, anger, sadness, longing. But that grief isn't regression. It's release. It's your nervous system learning that it doesn't have to stay alert forever. That strength doesn't have to mean self-abandonment. That softness is not a threat. If you grew up too fast, know this. Your maturity was never the problem. The problem was that you had no choice. But now you do. You can rest without guilt. Receive without explaining yourself. Stop managing everyone else's emotions and start honoring your own. It won't be instant. There will be moments where you feel younger, more vulnerable, less composed than you're used to. That's not failure. That's integration. That's the part of you that never got to be held finally coming back into view. You didn't lose your childhood forever. You carried it forward, waiting for a safer time to unpack it. And maybe that time is now. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're not weak for being tired of being strong. You're becoming whole. And for the first time, you're not growing up through pressure or fear, but through understanding.